In addition to that, God gave us different gifts and talents and opportunities and times in our life where maybe there's going to be people that you're going to come across in your life that I'm never going to come across. And so there's a way I can be a blessing to them that you can't be, that I can be a blessing to the people I come across. You can't, because you're not coming across them. You can be a blessing to the people that you come across because you're there. I'm not there. And so there's unique gifts and talents that we each bring to the table. Even if every one of us was a teacher, even if every one of us had a show, even if every one of us was an athlete, we all have different gifts, skills, styles, accents. We have different flavors we bring to the table. And all of them are valuable, and all of them will minister to someone. There's an audience I can reach that you can't reach. There's an audience that you can reach that I can't reach. And there's a talent and a gift that you have that can be used that I can't use the same way that you do. It says in 1 Samuel 3:1, in those days the word of the Lord was rare. There were not many visions. I thought about times in my life where I just felt like I couldn't see. I was trying to see something. I was trying to understand. I was trying to see past where I was, and I felt blinded, just like how I described those teenagers in that TV show. There are times in our lives where there can be blinders, or we can be bound by something, by sin or whatever, and there can be areas, there's principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, where you can be in a whole area, a whole town, a whole state, a whole country, where there seems to be a particular type of oppressive thing that oppresses vision, that makes it difficult for you to see past where you are today. But there's ability to break through that. As believers, we understand the power of prayer. We understand the supernatural authority that we have, the ammunition, the weapons of our warfare that can break through those barriers so that we can receive, even in a time where it's difficult to receive. There's many examples of times, even in famine, where the believers were still fruitful, or where there's, particular people that God placed out to help carry people through times. He can give you vision that will help carry people through a time or a season where there's not much vision. Sometimes as parents, our kids can flounder a bit, or even as leaders or pastors, you can have people that you lead or you guide, even in a business, and they just don't have the vision. And so there's a way that you may have vision that they don't yet have, and so you help inspire them and light some flame, some little flame. You know how when you turn a torch on, we call it a torch or a flashlight, and you have just that little bit of light in the midst of darkness. There's times that we become that little bit of light, that little bit that shines in the midst of a place where people can't see. And sometimes people will do that for us. Verse 9 says, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. That's again with Samuel. And then the Lord came and stood there, calling out as in other times. And then he says, see. The Lord says in verse 11, see, I'm about to do something. And as I read that, I just felt really encouraged. I really believe that's the story for many of us right now, that God is about to do something. I know there's been a few areas of my life for the past maybe a few months, and in some cases even the last few years, where there's some things I just felt like giving up on. And feelings lie, so you can't be led by your feelings or your emotions. But sometimes those feelings or those emotions can be so strong or so deep, or the enemy can attach himself to those things and really try to torment and torture you with them. But when you use your ammunition, your God-given ammunition, and you get those thoughts renewed daily, you can begin to see there's something. And I've just had this stirring in me, this vision in me, that the more I wrestle with the fact that I should just give up on some things or let go of some visions that I have, I hear this kind of a saying, see, I'm about to do something. And I don't know the timing. I don't know the way. I don't know the method. I don't know all the answers. I'm at A and I'm seeing what I think is Z. But I don't understand B through Y. I can't figure out how all that's going to work out. And I'm not even necessarily seeing that I'm making any progress. in B through Y, but God knows, and I'm doing my best to trust and obey him and all of that. And so I just keep plugging along, seeing and obeying and trusting and keeping my confidence in him. And then I see breakthroughs. When I look back, I'm like, oh, there's fruit there. Oh, I see progress there. Oh, I see something's happening there. But then there's some things where you recognize there's this breakthrough that happens, this, like when someone uses a battering ram or something to plow down a door or break down a wall, or maybe you have a big cement wall in front of you or something, you need to knock it down. You hit it however many times it takes. And there may be times where it seems like this thing is never going to break, this thing is never going to stop, or it's going to keep me blocked. I'm never going to get to the other side of it. But when you have vision, when you see what's on the other side, then you just keep going. You keep going. And when you do it God's way, for example, when the Israelites were marching around Jericho, they didn't understand why in the world they marched the way they did, or they were told to keep silent, or they were told how many times to march, or when to shout, when not to. They didn't understand why they were doing all those things, but they were being obedient and trusting, and they knew the vision ahead was they have the land. God has given them what he's promised them, and so we obey him and trust him, and he'll give us what he said. He'll do what he's promised. And so when that's your vision, he will do what he's promised. You just keep going. You just keep, we say keep trucking, keep plugging away until you have that breakthrough. Jeremiah 1:11, the word of the Lord came to me. What do you see, Jeremiah? And as I read this, I thought, what do you see, Amy or Ami, depending on how you know me? What do you see, Sarah? What do you see, Bob? What do you see, Emily? What do you see, Trevor? What do you what do you see? Put your name in there. What do you see, Stefan? What do you see, Victoria? What do you see? What is it your eyes are seeing right now? And then verse 7, he says to him, so this is going back up. I read you verse 11. Now if you go back up to verse 7, do not say I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you and say whatever I command you. Are there times where God's given you vision and you just said, I can't do it? I can't, there's something you see, but there's just no way you can actually see yourself there or see yourself doing it. God specializes in impossible. And the only thing you have to do to make the impossible possible is take out I'm, right? You take out the I am and you get possible, right? In the spelling of the word. Take out I'm, me, I am, and all you got left is possible. So if I remove myself from the equation and I just become the obedient, trusting, willing servant of God and say, hey, anything is possible. If you said I can do it, I can do it. If you said you've equipped me, you've equipped me. If you've said believe it, I believe it. Then there's a way that he takes us where he says he's going to take us. And it's really phenomenal because when you sit back and look at your life, you'll be like, I have no idea how I went to those places or said those things or held that job or led those people to Christ or went to that place or visited that country, whatever it is. I can't believe I did those things because you were willing to trust him and see beyond what you could see. We say that if your vision is small enough for you to accomplish, it's too small. It's not a God-sized vision. In verse 8 of that same chapter in Jeremiah 1, he said, do not be afraid of them, for I am with you and will rescue you. Don't be afraid of what's ahead of you. Don't be afraid of what you see. I remember very distinctly when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I had a very clear vision of what the Lord had called me to do now, today, in this time and season of my life. I was 7 or 8 years old in that time, and I remember very vividly specific parts of the vision. But I remember afterwards the enemy came in as a little girl because I didn't understand exactly what I was seeing, and he tried to make me afraid. He tried to cause me to think, I can't do this, I would never do this, and I didn't even understand all of what I'm seeing. But I'm doing and just stepping into some of the things I saw back then at that age. Verse 9 says, the Lord reached out his hand and touched my mouth and said, I have put my words in your mouth. If your vision is that he's called me to speak, that he's called me to preach, that he's called me to be a public speaker, a teacher, something that requires your voice. Even as a parent, you use your voice to speak into your kid's life. As a grandparent, you speak into your grandkid's life. As an aunt or an uncle, you speak into your niece or your nephew's life. As a friend or a neighbor, you use your mouth to speak into people's lives every day. As a sister, as a son or a daughter. So he's put his words in your mouth, and if you'll choose to allow him to speak through you, see that he has something to say to you, say in and through you today. Then verse 10 says, see today that I appoint you over nations and kingdoms, and to do what? To uproot, to tear down, to destroy, to overthrow, to build, and to plant. And he's speaking, of course, prophetically. Verse 11, then he asks him, what do you see? Right? The Lord asked Jeremiah, what do you see? So I'm asking you that today. What do you see? What's your vision? What are you seeing today? Ask yourself that. And I would encourage you, get a piece of paper out and just start writing what you see, no matter what it is. If you've ever brainstormed before, you know what that looks like. Just sit down and every thought that comes in your mind, write it down, no matter how crazy it is, no matter how wrong it sounds, just write it down and get it out. And then go back to it and say, Lord, which things are you? What do you see, Lord? And then verse 12 in that same chapter, it says, you have seen correctly, for I am watching to see that my word is fulfilled. And I was really encouraged by that, because I was just thinking how the Lord does that. He watches over his word to see that it's fulfilled in and through us. If we're willing and obedient to him, and we make ourselves available to say, hey, Lord, you put me here for a purpose. There's a vision you have for my life, and I want to walk it out. No matter how scary it is, no matter what it looks like, I want to walk out that purpose that I was created for. I want to see through the lens of your eyes, Lord. I want to see what you see and get your plan, your action plan for how to carry that vision out. And then watch the Lord fulfill it. There's no way, God doesn't set people up for failure. We do that for ourselves. There's a couple other verses I wanted to share with you, and then we'll wind up. I shared earlier that God speaks to us at any time of the day. We saw that in Daniel 2:19. During the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then there was another time in Acts 9 where the Lord called Ananias in a vision. There's so many examples. Acts 10:3, in the afternoon, he had a vision. Again, Paul had a vision in Acts 16 during the night. Daniel 10:7 says, I, Daniel, was the only one who saw the visions. Those who were with me did not see it, but such terror had overwhelmed them. As I read that, I thought, isn't that like how life works a lot of times? Amy, I see this vision. There's something I see, and it's happened to me many times where I'll get excited about what I see, and then I go share it with somebody, and they get this look like, oh. Or you can tell deep down inside they're thinking, you'll never do that. Or they may even be brave enough, bold enough, or tactless enough, mean enough, whatever the case is, to say, you can't do that. There's no way you can accomplish that. And they start, putting out the fire of that vision that you have, or dimming that light that seemed so bright to you. So sometimes there's a time, a season, and a place to share your vision. Like that scripture we often quote that says not to cast your pearls before swine. That may not be necessarily what it means, but I don't necessarily take my vision and just throw it out to anybody who's not understanding the vision. Not everybody is going to understand what you see. Not everybody will see what you see. When Joseph had his dreams, his family didn't recognize or see what he saw. They saw him differently. And oftentimes it will be the people closest to us who see us the least like what God sees in us. Unfortunately, that's the case in a lot of situations. But as believers, I think it's important that not only we ask the Lord for what his vision for us is, but Lord, what's your vision? Like help me see what you see in the people around me. You know, when I was at church on Sunday, I was thinking about, what do I see? What do other people see when they look at people? Like, do you see a drunkard? Or do you see someone delivered and set free and testifying of how God delivered them from their addiction? You know, do you see someone who is high all the time and a drug addict? Or do you see someone who is healthy and whole and healed from whatever it is and set free from whatever it is that drove them to that addiction in the first place? When you see someone that's unfit or obese, or you see someone who is sick, do you see them healed? Do you look at them and see, you've been made whole. You are healed in the name of Jesus Christ. Is that what you see? When you see someone defeated with your natural eyes, you see them defeated. Are you seeing them victorious? When you look at hurting and broken, do you see them mended? Do you see yourself being a part of them being healed and mended? When you see, a fight between people, do you see reconciliation happening? What do you see? And I just challenge you to ask yourself that question. Ask the Lord to reveal to you, Lord, what do you see? I'm seeing depression. Lord, what do you see? My eyes are seeing hopelessness. What do you see, Lord? My eyes are seeing frustration. What do you see with your eyes, Lord? I was listening to a couple messages from Dr. Miles Monroe, and I was touched really by one of the points that several points that he made, and I'm going to share a few of them with you, but as we wind up. But one of the key ones I thought was interesting, because we face this so much here in Africa, is poverty. He was talking about poverty and how a lot of people say poverty is like a money problem, or poverty is opportunity problem, that sort of thing. And his take is that poverty is actually a vision problem. That where there's no vision, people can't produce, because you have nothing to produce. You have no aim to what you're producing. You think there's nothing for you, so you try nothing beyond where you are. Like I've often heard people say, without education, I can't do this. Yet I know many people who are very successful business people who haven't had further education. Some haven't even finished high school or elementary school, and yet they're very successful people. So those are people who had vision beyond the education level that some people may have limited them with. So if you have vision, you can definitely get out of poverty. You can definitely succeed. So a couple key points about vision that I want to leave you with, and just really dig into these and ponder these. Vision helps you identify yourself. In other words, it helps you clearly zero in on who you were created to be, what you're created to do while you're here, and really why you're here to do it. Is it singing? Is it art? Is it speaking? Is it business? Is it medicine? And then there's specific, fields within those fields. There's so many different directions your life can go, but it helps you zero in on the value that God put in you to bring into this world. And it becomes your motivation. Vision gives you motivation. If you have no vision, it's going to be hard to motivate yourself very far, or very long. Vision requires self-discipline. We talked about this with our leaders this last week. Vision requires us to be disciplined within ourselves. It's not something that someone comes and says, hey, to fulfill that vision, you must do this, this, and this, and I'm going to babysit you while you do it. Nobody's coming and begging you to do it. Even God doesn't come and kick us in the pants and tell us, get busy doing this. He shows you what he sees, and then he expects you to act in faith. And in fact, when we were building, one time I was sitting, we were asking the Lord, why hadn't we built as far as we thought we should build by now? And all the Lord told us is, when have I ever met you while you were sitting? I've always met you on the way. I've always met you, I call it putting feet to your faith. And you start moving ahead, taking action to what he's shown you, and he guides you and directs you and provides and guides and creates the connections, and that you just keep obeying and he keeps guiding. It helps determine your behavior. When you have vision, there are certain behaviors you are just not going to engage in because you see something beyond whatever your moment is. In this TV show I was telling you about, you'd see maybe kids breaking out into a fight because someone offended the other one or something like that. But if you see the fact that I have a scholarship ahead of me that I want to obtain, I'm not going to get in fights because I know I'm going to lose my scholarship. I'm not going to get involved in something criminal because I have this thing that I see ahead of me. So this temptation that I have today in my current situation that I see so hopeless or so difficult or whatever, I see beyond it. So I'm not going to engage in this thing today because it will risk me losing this vision ahead, right? It helps determine your behavior. It focuses your life. It reveals value, which I talked about a little bit already. It simplifies decision making. It's much easier to say yes or no if I have a clear direction on where I'm going. If I want to live to see tomorrow, I am not going to drive, 150 miles an hour down the road on a swervy dirt road unless I'm a professional in a car that's built for me to do that. You know what I mean? So there's certain decisions in life I'm just not going to do no matter how hard it is in that particular time or that particular season. So it simplifies our decision making and makes yes and no easier. Clarifies what's necessary. There's some things that because of peer pressure, because of our parents, because of our grandparents, our neighbors, our pastors, our bosses, whatever, there's some things that we can get so consumed with thinking they're so necessary. We can even be afraid of not having those things, not doing them. I know some people who are terrified of having their house disorganized or things cluttery or dusty or, whatever, just certain things out of place. But it's not because that's ingrained in them to have it that way. It's because somebody else put pressure on them thinking it was so necessary to having, the environment the way it should be. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have things that way, but when it becomes a bondage to you, you may be consumed by unnecessary things. So stop and take a look at what's the real vision, and is this thing really necessary? Is this wasting my time? Is this something that's giving me rest, and so therefore it's a good thing because it's helping me de-stress and prepare for tomorrow or the next thing or whatever. Because there's times that it's fun to do useless things just because your brain needs a break, But if you're just wasting time and not being productive and not being fruitful, having vision will help you discern which is which. Vision needs God's wisdom. If, as I said in the earlier, when we first began talking about vision, that we want God's vision, which means we need His wisdom. We need His direction, His guidance, and we need to be focused on His will. And He'll give us, the desires, and He'll fulfill dreams and visions and things that we have, or He'll help us shed those things off if they really truly don't belong to us. We just have to trust Him. Vision will be tested. Your vision will be tested. So don't be shocked. Your vision will experience resistance. Just like I said, there's times you may share your vision with someone. You may have to knock. I watched a movie some time back about a young Indian girl from East India, and she was trying to start a new thing that was anti-cultural and unfamiliar, but it was going to be very fruitful for the community. And everyone opposed her, and she kept being told, no, 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 but she had a vision. She got discouraged, she got frustrated, but the vision didn't die. And that's what is a real vision from God, is when even in the face of opposition, even in the face of testing, it does not die. It stays alive in you until you pursue it and see it come to fruition. And vision will detect how you invest or spend your time, your money, your resources, your relationship energy, all of that. It'll help determine who you spend time with, how much time you spend with them, and what you do. So as we close today, as I asked you earlier, what do you see? And what's the legacy that you want to leave behind? Because vision really is about legacy. What's going to be left here when you leave this earth? When I leave this earth, what will I have left here? What I have a vision about today is going to be part of what people will experience of me, through me, about me, And those are the things I leave when it's my time to go. And the last thing is what's my destination? So when you're like, I don't understand all this vision talk or whatever, ask yourself a very simple question. What is my destination? If you were going to go to the supermarket today, or to the football game, or, to some place, that's your destination. That's where you're going. To get to that place, you have to have a plan. How am I going to get there? Am I going to walk? Am I going to get a ride? Am I going to take a bus? Am I going to drive? Am I going to run? Am I going to ride my bike? How am I going to get there? And then which route am I going to take? There might be 10 different routes to get to the place you're going. Maybe there's road construction on part of the way you're going, so you got to take a detour. So your vision is equivalent to your destination. Where am I going? Where am I going in my marriage? Where am I going in my job? Where am I going in my career? Where am I going in my ministry? Where am I going in my life? Where am I going with my children as a parent? What's my destination? And then the questions and the plan gets narrowed in from there, right? What's the direction I take? Is there a detour here because of whatever here, and you're going to find yourself there, right? God created us to fulfill the visions and the plans. We weren't created to be sent back to Him void of what He put in us, right? He created us to pour out what He put in us. So in that sense, yes, we'll be void of what He put in us because we leave it here, right? But we were meant to bear the fruit that He called and created us to do. And we can and we will do it if we'll allow Him to show us His vision, to see and fulfill in and through us. Amen? So God bless you, and I just speak vision to your eyes to see what He sees, hearing to your ears so that you can hear what He hears, understanding to your mind so that you can think His thoughts, renew your mind daily so that you can receive the fullness of the vision that He has for you and begin to walk in it. Have faith and have courage and recognize that He who began a good work in you is faithful to complete it. God bless you. Amen.